Want more Gators Breakdown? Join Gators Breakdown Plus. Starting at $3 a month, get access to unique episodes, plus a blog, chat room, giveaways, shout-outs, and more. Gators Breakdown Plus is furthering the interaction with fans and listeners like you. Head to gatorsbreakdown.supportingcast.fm to join Gators Breakdown Plus today. Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
We'll get this thing going, put it out there, everybody listen to Twitter Spaces, and this is going to be a lot of fun, I think, to get it out there to more people. So, all right, week away, Gators start. We'll be kicking off versus FAU. I'm ready for the season. I know you guys are ready for the season. I'm ready to do some tailgating. We got the news this week that the swamp, can be full capacity. I'm not going to get political here, so this will be the last time I say anything about it. But don't have to be vaxxed, don't have to be masked. Know that it's a sensitive subject, but we talk football here. But of course, if you missed that news, that's how the University of Florida is approaching it here. So, all right, couple requests here. So let's hop in here with Carrie, MD. You guys are in here. Let's get this thing going. What's up, MD?
How's it going, Dave?
Pretty good. How about you, man?
Doing well. So, yeah, I kind of want to start this off talking about DeJuan Black a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of stuff about him, moving at star, but they're moving him all over the field. Is it too much of a reach to have like our expectations of him being an Isaiah Simmons level player on defense lining up all over the place?
I think eventually that's where you probably do want him. I wouldn't expect that game one. He's got a long way to go as far as learning the defense, and they moved him around a lot. I think they wanted to find the best spot for him. And I know that's kind of been a critique of a Todd Grantham defense, is not being able to find a home for anybody, and they move him around a little bit. But I think that's what they used this fall camp for. They moved him around initially a good bit to kind of see where they thought his best fit would be. And it turns out it may not be at linebacker. It may be safety or that nickel star role. That right now, the thought I have in coming out of this is safety might be just a little easier to learn initially to get him out there and get him on the field. Not as much of a I guess just for him right now, I've been told multiple times by a couple of people now, and I think we knew this, but nobody really came out and said it. Todd Grantham's defense is very difficult to learn. But I always go back to, okay, well, the 2018 defense, it didn't look like they had a hard time necessarily learning the defense. The 2019 defense, this is his first couple of years under Todd Grantham. It didn't look like they really had a hard time learning the defense, at least, to the effect of what we saw in 2020 with misalignments and communication and all that. So maybe those things aren't connected. Maybe I'm connecting the dots too much there. But I heard it's very hard to learn. But I thought you had guys who only played in that defense for 1 year, or you had guys that were just playing in that defense in their first season, and they didn't look all that lost there. So while it might be a difficult defense to learn, I think it can be learned. So guys just got to go out there and apply themselves. But my also thing is kind of going back to last year and adjusting for that. If it is too difficult to learn, dial it down, make it easy for these guys to play in. If DeJuan Black is such a good athlete that you got to have him out there, and he's a young player and he's still learning out there because he just got on campus, then okay, well, dial back what you ask him to do. Now, not limit his playing times. I think that's where I'm going with this. Is I think eventually he can be that Isaiah Simmons type where you can line him up in multiple positions, but in order to play multiple positions, he's going to have to learn more of the defense. And if this is a difficult defense to learn initially anyway, if you want to ask him to learn two positions, then it's going to be even more for him to learn. So I think they want to concentrate him, looks like, more in the secondary right now instead of that linebacker role. So you may see him at that safety, you may see him more in that nickel star role. Look, initially when he tweeted, it was a couple months ago, he tweeted where he thought he would be playing, and he said nickel, star, and slash money linebacker. Well, it looks like that second one, the money slash linebacker, might be more of the safety, a pure safety role back there with Trey Dean and Mordecai McDaniel. So and Rashad Torrance. So Donovan McMillan also back there in that safety rotation. So I think Florida. I think if you feel pretty good at safety with those guys, I think you probably do. I think Rashad Torrance, Mordecai McDaniel, and Donovan McMillan, I think you feel pretty good in that second safety spot. Initially, I think you probably feel better there than you do depth behind Travis Johnson at star. That's why I think DeJuan Black might be playing a little bit more star right now, because I think there is a little more depth at safety, especially with Donovan McMillan improving or impressing as a freshman. So I think behind Travis Johnson, Florida needs a little more depth there if they want to keep some of those other guys at that second cornerback spot as well, fighting for that job. Between Avery Helm and Jason Marshall and Young back there as well. So it's Black probably needs to stay at safety just because I think he's a little more comfortable there making plays there. And as the season goes along, and maybe even next year, we'll see that more Isaiah Simmons role as he learns the defense along the way.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, Kerry, I think you're in here if you want to turn your mic on.
Good morning, Dave.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Long time Gator fan. Just ready to see us get the field and get the roll. But I got a question for you. Are you surprised to see the progression that Anthony Richardson has made to be prepared at the start? Be prepared at the start.
No, I won't say I'm surprised, and I'll say the only reason I'm not. I got a lot of Anthony Richardson talk from his quarterback coach, who's also here in Jacksonville, Denny Thompson. I talked to Denny a lot, and don't get me wrong. He should do this. For quarterbacks he trains, he hypes his guys. But Denny's also a realist when it comes to it as well. A lot of the time, and in talking to him, he's like, "Look, eventually this dude is going to be elite. He's got everything you want in a quarterback that's going to play with Dan Mullen." So coming in as a freshman last year, of course it's going to be difficult. It was difficult for everybody in COVID, but just imagine being a quarterback for Dan Mullen and having a limited, actually no spring and then a limited fall camp. Now, luckily, he got a few practices in when Florida was preparing for Virginia in the bowl game. He was an early enrollee. Since he was in Gainesville, it was easy to go to campus. So I think he got to take part in 2 or 3 practices there. But that's just getting his feet wet while the team is preparing for a bowl game. So not a lot of it's going into that. And then you miss the spring, and then so you're not really taking part with the straight tutelage of Dan Mullen and Brian Johnson until you come back for fall camp. So that's a young quarterback there who missed, the beginnings of learning under Dan Mullen. So now, this time you get a full spring, you get a full fall camp, and Anthony Richardson, I think, took advantage of it. He's got like I said, every intangible you want for a Dan Mullen quarterback coming in. Big size, big arm, not afraid to run it, not afraid to throw it. He got better in his senior year as well. He really stepped up in his completion percentage and growing as a quarterback. I think that's when he came to Jacksonville and started working with Denny in between his junior and senior year, and you could see the immediate leap that he took in getting better. Didn't have a lot of talent around him in high school there in Gainesville, so it was him making the plays a lot. And they just really wanted to work with his passing aspect, and that's what they did between his junior and senior year out there. And you saw that all that work kind of just pay off, and his completion percentage coming up. Pass attempts go up as well. They didn't run him as much as they did. First of all, a quarterback that gets to work with Dan Mullen and up being. I know when he initially committed to Florida, then he did commit it, but around that time he was a 3-star. Then he went to camps. More people started to see Anthony Richardson, started to see his size. He hit a big growth spurt as well, and you saw the guy. You saw a boy become a man at that point when you started looking at Anthony Richardson, and I think a lot of people started taking notice. He eventually gets that 4-star status there. So you're talking about a high, 4-star quarterback being able to work with Dan Mullen, and that pairing just in and of itself is a nice baseline to start with. And then him now coming in and all the reports of the offense looking really smooth at him. He gets to work with the second team most of the time. Emory's working with the ones most of the time. But it did, we got to hear Garrett McGee. If you listen to the most recent episode of Gators Breakdown, we go with Garrett McGee talking about that. Emory working with the ones most of the time, but Anthony's also working with the ones as well. And then Mullen likes to get his quarterbacks reps, just so they'll be ready just in case that moment comes. And you never know when that moment comes, of course. Florida's a perfect example of that in the last couple of years with Kyle Trask. You never know when that's coming. You got to go be ready. Dan Mullen prepares those quarterbacks better than anybody out there to get ready for another situation. So, I think when you look at it, we might see more of Anthony Richardson than we initially believed when fall camp started. I think he's a talent that might be just too hard to keep off the field. And that's not a shot at Emory at all. That's just, hey, we have another player that we just need to get on the field. And Florida's going to need to score points. We'll see how this defense does, but, Florida may have to start keeping up a little bit more in games, a lot like last year. And, maybe there's a little bit more potential excitement there at times. I'm just saying if, I'm not saying it will, but if the offense gets bogged down a little bit, needs a spark or something like that, then Anthony Richardson comes off the bench and you can feel comfortable with him out there. And they said this week, Anthony and Garrett McGee, that they run, it's a perfect 1-2 punch. The offense doesn't change with those two guys. He can go in there and do everything Emory Jones does there. And I fully believe that. I really do. From everything I've been hearing, talking to Denny again behind the scenes, he gets to talk to AR during all this. They're still connected. His quarterback coach that he gets to, or his quarterback trainer, I should say, not his quarterback coach, but his quarterback trainer. They still talking to Denny. I talked to Denny this week, and he's still very high on the potential of AR coming in and making an impact for this Gator team. So the talk that I get from all this, that Anthony's playing good, to me, it just means Florida has two good quarterbacks. I don't look at it in the way of, well, this must mean Emory's not ready. This must mean Emory's not getting the job done. I don't look at it that way. And maybe it's orange and blue glasses. Maybe it's me being a little bit homer. It just means to me Florida's got two good quarterbacks, and Florida can feel pretty comfortable with rolling either guy out there. All right. Remember, guys, if you're in, you are being recorded. I'm going to try and put this into a podcast form as well. I found a way to do that. So thank you guys out there so much for hopping in here and talking some football. Just remember, if you do hop in, you'll be recorded. Pretty much just like a call-in radio show. That's what I'm going to try and turn this into just a little bit. So still a couple of times a week. We'll do this during the season. But remember, this is being recorded for at later use to put out there. All right, Perry, you in here, man? What's up? Yeah, you're on mute, Perry. There you are.
Hey, Dave. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How about you, man?
I'm doing fine. Get ready for football season. Go Gators. Can't wait.
Good. Yeah, we get some football tomorrow. We get to watch. We get to wet our palate. We get to get a little bit of taste of it before we go full bore into it next Saturday.
Yep. You do a good job, buddy. I enjoy your podcast and everything you're doing. Thanks for keeping us up and everything.
Thank you, man. Hey,
Demarcus Weston. Starting to hear a little tidbits about him. And the safety play just concerns me. It has sucked for 5 or 6 years. I mean, we just can't seem to get a safety. You think Trey Dean's really ready to step up? He seems to have the size. And then with Juan Black, I think he's going to have to play safety.
Yeah, so I was talking about just a little bit, Perry. I think right before you came on, I think DeJuan Black is going to be pretty much playing mostly safety coming up this spring or coming up this fall. I just think that's where it's going right now. You have to probably maybe go back. I don't want to repeat myself here. We can move on for a lot of people who's already listened. So when I post this, you can go back. But I do think DeJuan Black's going to play a lot of safety for the Gators this year. I think that's just where he fits naturally. But talking about the safety position and other guys as well, Donovan McMillan was a guy who back in the spring, he's a freshman. He's a young guy that keeps impressing, dating back to the spring and now fall camp as well. So you're building some depth there.
What's his size? 6'2", 200?
Hold on. Let's see.
He was a 4-star, wasn't
he? Yep.
He was a big get at safety. He just hadn't come on, like I thought he would. Isn't he a redshirt sophomore?
I think he's a true freshman, right?
True freshman. Okay, I
think so. If I'm remembering right, let me make sure so I'm not speaking out of turn here. But I think. He's a true freshman. Yeah, true freshman. 4-star, 6'2", 193 was his recruiting profile. So came in spring, really impressed, and then I'm continuing to hear good things about McMillan there. So I think Florida's building some depth. That is just one position. You're right, though. I do have to see, just because the play there has just been putrid. I mean, they got lucky at some points. You go back to 2018 and Donovan Steiner's sack versus Mississippi State, and some good play there. Donovan Steiner. It was really a roller coaster with him.
He just never could pick the right angle. He just couldn't get the angles right.
Like, and the staff liked him because he was a smart player, but he was just so limited physically. And I'm not trying to take a shot at him. I mean, look, he made a play in the NFL preseason in the first game of the year for the Steelers, I believe, and all that. He might make an NFL roster or so. I mean, but he was just limited, and as you said, taking wrong angles and stuff. So some bad play there. Sean Davis was up and down. I mean, the whole defense was up and down, or most of it last year. But you really never saw a lot of consistency in the safety position there. So I do think there's Trey Dean. He played that position in high school. We wanted to play a little bit different positions coming into Florida. They tried corner because they had to, and Marco Wilson went down in 2018. Then they slid him into star once Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left. That didn't work out. So maybe more of a natural fit at safety just because he played more of that in high school, more comfortable there, can be a leader back there. From everything I've heard in fall camp, he's been really aggressive. They've had to get on to him about how aggressive and physical he's being in fall camp just a little bit. They want him to dial it down just a little bit. That doesn't concern me too much, even like late hits and stuff. They've had to warn him about all of that. Not concerned about all that because we haven't really seen that from Trey Dean on the field in games so far in his career. He's not really a guy that's been called for a lot of penalties or anything in that regard. So,
I think he's just aggressive. I think he's aggressive, and I'm glad he's being.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what he's got to be.
Yeah, I don't mind hearing that right now in fall camp because this defense wasn't aggressive at all last year. So if you're going to sit here and tell me there's a guy back there right now that's playing aggressive and maybe trying to spread that mindset to the defense, then don't hit the quarterback late and don't hit guys late, don't hit guys low. But if you're out there being aggressive, then go for it. Somebody on that defense needs to be after what we saw last year.
Well, do you not think this is the most talented roster depth-wise we've had in probably 10 years? Just top to bottom is finally filled out like it needs to be.
Oh yeah, you look at recruiting rankings, it absolutely is. It's just experience. That's where it comes. That's where it comes down to. It's just experience. I mean, and the roster's balanced as well. You don't have 20 DBs back there that are rated 4-star, 5-star, and that balances the recruiting rankings or somewhat, or like a Will Muschamp, where all the don't get me wrong, the higher stars for this team is also on the defensive side of the ball, but it wasn't so unbalanced like it was under Will Muschamp when you look at it that way. So I think there's just, recruiting numbers-wise have been pretty good. Offensive line, I'd still like to see a little higher numbers-wise and baseline talent-wise, but everywhere else on this team's pretty well balanced there. And now just kind of raise the floor of recruiting just a little bit, or raise the ceiling, I guess. The floor is okay, but the ceiling just needs to be a little higher with some of those.
Well, I think we're making too much out of recruiting with Dan's ability to coach. I think everybody needs to relax. We finished in that 5 to 9. Yeah, I'd like to pull a couple more 5 stars than we're pulling, especially on offensive line or defensive end or something like that. But I really think his ability to coach is going to offset some of that. And I look forward to beating the two frat boys at Georgia, Bowl Cup and Muschamp. I cannot wait. We're going to spoil their season this year. And, they were on the field a lot in the 90s when they were playing Spurs, so you're used to getting their butt kicked by Florida. But that's going to be one of the most savoring wins this year that I've ever had as a Florida Gator. So go Gators, buddy. Thanks for all you do, and I'll let somebody else get in here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Perry.
Thank you.
All right, Kobe, man, what's up?
Dave, what's going on, brother?
Enjoying this Friday morning.
Hey, man, I want to talk a little bit about the defensive line, man. It seems like from Buck all the way across to strong side defensive end, the starters look really good, but we have depth, man. What type of impact do you think that's going to make on the defense?
Say that last part again.
The depth that we have across the board. What type of impact do you think that's going to bring to the defense?
I think it means a whole lot just because it helps those guys play in their more natural positions for one thing. I don't think you're going to have Zach Carter filling in too much defensive tackle like he was last year. Brent Cox will be able to stand up now, and it really helps there. But those are the guys that we expect to hear from. Valentino and Shelton and Cox and Carter, Dexter, of course, too. Now I think this party goes really deep there with Chatfield and Bogle. Those are two guys I want to see a lot more of, and they'll be fresh when they come on the field. Those guys are experienced enough now. Chris Bogle got, when I had somebody at the scrimmage last week, Bogle was a guy that pointed out he got a lot. He's getting a lot more playing time with Cox, kind of just nursing that injury a little bit. They know what they have in Zachary Carter. So now a lot of these young players are getting a lot of playing time in the scrimmage setting. And Bogle was one player that was pointed out that he was singled out, and what he was able to do in the scrimmage last week looking really good. And apparently had a really good fall camp as well. We actually got to hear from him from the media this week. And he's not making too much of it as far as getting more of an opportunity because those guys were nursing some injuries. I think he was going to be a guy they were counting on anyway. And now I think, he's just now proving with those guys out that, he can be a piece that's counted on. Chatfield flashed a lot last year as well. One player Princely Mcmillan, I'm really excited for. He's flashed as well as a true freshman. And if you go back to earlier in fall camp, the thing for him was we just got to have him become an every down player. He's really good on third down. He's a specialist. He was really good on third down last year. That's what we put him in for. That was the situations that we put him in. Now we needed him to hit the weight room and be an every down player, not be so light on his feet and put some weight on. Now he could be an every down player. He can help set the edge if he gets just a little bit bigger. So that was the message for Princely Mcmillan and coming around and getting on the field a bit more, getting some more size so he can become an every down player. And the same thing about Desmond Watson. Now we heard about him in the spring and his size and his weight and being able to move around, but he wasn't able to move around a lot. And that's kind of the same thing that's kind of shifting towards fall camp. Now he got a lot of time in the second part of the scrimmage on Sunday night. They wanted to, they want to see how far they can push Desmond Watson right now because they see his value. They see the value his size and his speed brings. But they want to see how much he can actually play at that size because we talk about Mcmillan needing to be an every down player by putting on weight. Desmond Watson needs to become an every down player by losing a little bit of weight so he can be out there in the field more, work him into shape, get him on the field a little bit more. And he's played a lot. He did some really good things in the scrimmage for an extended period of time. But you're not going to ask him, and what Florida has, you don't need him to play a whole lot either. But I think late in game situations when teams are maybe trying to run the ball just a little bit more, you'll see Desmond Watson out there short. Third and short situations, fourth and short situations, goal line situations. Desmond Watson is the guy I want to see in there, even as a freshman. I don't. Your assignment pretty much. Then you got to tackle somebody before they get to the line of scrimmage or before they score a touchdown. So Desmond Watson, I think, is another piece there. I think they're starting to see what they have with him, how much they can play him. So I agree. Chatfield, Bogle, Mcmillan, Watson, and it's. we're going to have to hear more from a lot of those defensive tackles too. Lamar Goods, those guys there, you have some names that really, really have to start showing up at defensive tackle, guys that have just been recruited the last few years that we just haven't really heard a whole lot from. It's time for those guys to step up as well. We just haven't heard a whole lot. We've been concentrating on those transfers a whole lot, Valentino and Newkirk, for obvious reasons. But Florida's got some depth there at defensive tackle from some younger players that really need to step up this year as well.
Appreciate that, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Hey, David, it's Coach Guns.
What's up, man?
So what do you think with this whole Emory AR situation? How long of a leash do you think Emory has? And assuming, let's just say worst case scenario, we lose the Bama and LSU game, do you think a quarterback change happens before the Georgia game or after the Georgia game?
Yeah, I've spoken on that a couple times before. The leash there, it is an interesting prospect when you look at what AR has been able to do and how maybe he's closed the gap on how confident they could feel in him. They could feel in him coming in and playing that quarterback spot. The leash thing is tricky, of course, and let's just say. Let's just lay the scenario out there, not saying it does happen. But you're right. If Florida plays Alabama and the offense, just doesn't really look all that good. Now, I don't think, if the offense doesn't look all that good in that game, I don't think Mullen stands by. I think, if the offense is just kind of not, early on in the game, the first quarter and a half, not really able to get it going. Now, if it's still a close game and the defense is doing its job, then you probably still roll with Emory and see if he can just get out of it. But, I think AR is going to play a lot anyway, and this is if the offense is rolling. I think, Emory, they're going to just have a package for Emory, and maybe even more so than what they had for Emory in the last couple of years. But AR comes in and gets a good bit of playing time, and I'm not so sure he's sprinkled in like Emory was the last couple of years. I think he gets full drives. I think he comes in and, all right, this is your drive. You're not going to play two plays, and then here comes the starting quarterback off the sideline. I think it's going to be, this is your drive, and let's go see what you got. But just say that does happen. You're falling behind a little bit. It's first quarter and a half. I think Mullen's going to see what AR has and see what he can do to see if he can get the offense back in line. But that still probably means Emory starts the next week unless AR just comes in and just lights it up and brings Florida back and all that kind of. There's so many scenarios and so many ways to look at it. But just go by your scenario. Say the offense struggles versus Alabama, and then Emory's still the guy. You go into LSU. And that's your second loss, and the offense still kind of treading water throughout the season, then I do think you make that move during the bye week. If you still have you probably still have a lot to play for. If Bama and LSU are your only losses, we'll see what Georgia's schedule holds as well. But that game in Jacksonville is important no matter what. And if you want to try and build for 2022 at the same time, I'm not saying throw 2021 away, but if you want to build towards 2022 at the same time, then that's probably the perfect time to make the switch. The bye week before Georgia and like, I'm not saying, I'm just speaking to your scenario here. I'm not saying that's what happens or anything, but if that scenario does happen, if you get to LSU, that's your second loss of the season. If the offense is not where we want it, now the coaching staff may see it different, of course, but I think you could see the move made to AR there, and the leash is important. I think if you got two quarterbacks ready to go and Mullen knows those quarterbacks are ready to go, I still don't know if he knew what he had in Kyle Trask when Kyle Trask come off the bench versus Kentucky. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. There was a lot of people out there who believed in Kyle Trask and believed he'd be a good quarterback. I'm not so sure anybody saw what he was, at least the ceiling in 2020 was able to be with Kyle Trask. And basically what he did in 2019 as well. A lot of people were behind him. A lot of people wanted him on the field over Felipe Franks. But I just don't know if a lot of people thought he'd be that good. It was a nice surprise. I'm even sure the coaching staff knew he'd be that good. With AR, I think they might have an inclination that he can be what they want him to be. So I think the leash might be a little shorter there if And if I want to stress if I'm not calling for a quarterback change or anything, just kind of speaking to your scenario here. If the job doesn't get done to Emory, I think the leash is a little bit shorter for AR to get in.
Thanks, David. Go Gators.
Go Gators. All right, everybody. Remember, you are being recorded for this. So if you don't want to be recorded, don't request to speak in here and all that good stuff. But definitely want to get this out there to more people after the fact. So we'll put it out there. We'll go for a few more minutes or so. So bring a couple more in here and get this going. Good, Joe. How about you, man?
I'm doing good. I got a couple of questions to ask you. Number one, I was happened to be doing some recent videos and stuff, and I came across a little session that Dan Mullen had with the media at SEC Media Days, and during that conversation, he talked about some of the rules that they have in practices. And he mentioned the fact that wanting the guys to have more off days, and they're not letting them do that. Is there a reason behind that? I mean, you would think that safety and health protocol would be the main concern.
That's what Dan Mullen wants. He wants more time off for guys to recover in between practices. They squeezed down how many weeks I think it was, or how many days. I forget what it was, but yeah, Florida didn't have a whole lot of days off once they started fall camp, and there was not a lot of time for recovery there. So I don't necessarily know how they went about it. Like I said, I know in the scrimmages they didn't let the starters go a whole lot, and I think a lot of it was that they know what they have in a whole lot of the starters. But also probably going to that point as well is just not putting those guys out there more than they really need to be, because there wasn't a whole lot of recovery time in fall camp there. So I forget the exact number and how many weeks they had,
right.
how many days they could practice. But there was the Dan Mullen was really worried about that. Now, the worry for me there was he was really worried about injuries for the COVID 2020 season as well. And Florida didn't go all that hard in practice because they didn't get physical in practice as much because, he wanted to save everybody and at least have them on the field. And I think that translated into a lot of what we saw on defense last year. So hopefully, but that doesn't translate again, trying to keep everybody healthy and not so much. But I've heard, practice have been physical. The beginning of fall camp was really physical for these guys. I think that's a product of last year. That's a product of, having Nick Savage and bouncing back from that as well. So there's a lot of things that went into fall camp this year where physicality was more of a topic for these guys, but also at the same time knowing that you have back-to-back days of practice more so than you had in fall camp before, that there's a way that you need to protect these guys, and they went about that. So that's really what it was. It was just the timeline was shrinking a little bit as far as fall camp goes. A lot of back-to-back practices and not enough time for recovery for these guys.
I see. Okay, that's what I kind of thought that was what it was, but wasn't sure. We're hearing that Collier Elam is going to be playing what's called the star position. Is that where safety acts as a linebacker? Is he playing like two positions at one time?
That star position. It's a unicorn right now for Florida. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was the best example of that. 2018. Haven't seen any play like that since. You're probably looking at a safety linebacker hybrid. In certain situations, I think you could be a star and it'd be more passing situations as well. There were some more Collier Elam's working in there, but that's, from what I was told, only for emergency uses only. He's going to be that first cornerback there for the Gators. He did some work there in the nickel, but it was just more of an emergency thing if something happens there. They have to shift some guy because they are deep at cornerback. They don't know, they're working through finding out who they want to be that second cornerback opposite Collier Elam. But they do have a lot of names there. They have a lot of youth there. They're working a lot of guys there. So if the worst happens and you get the injury bug back there, I think can Collier play nickel, and then can Jason Marshall be corner one and Avery Helm be corner two? You get three good DBs on the field at the same time. That's where that comes into play. So it's only trying him there just in case the worst happens, injury bug back there.
I
And at
see.
least
Okay.
he's worked there, and it's not a total surprise.
Gotcha. I thought thinking that he was going to be doing this full time, but thank you very much for the clarification. You do a great job. I have to get going, and my friend, and as always, guys, go Gators. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.
Hey, good morning, Dave.
Hey, Nick, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Greetings from Birmingham.
There we go. About a month ago, I was up there for SEC Media Days. So about a month and a week or so.
Absolutely. I had to wait till my wife leaves out. She's a big Bama fan, so I don't want to hear nothing. So, but I got a question.
Don't get in trouble now.
No.
Get in trouble.
Got a question for you.
What's up, man?
What do you want to see? What do you want to see next week against FAU, offensively and defensively? That you would say, man, you know what? I think we're going to be all right this year. And what do you not want to see offensively and defensively for you to say, I got questions about this year?
A lot of those things will be related. And I will have to save some for the podcast next week, so I'll brush by it just a little bit.
Okay.
What I definitely want to see, and I think everybody will agree here, this will be no surprise. Just run the ball. I mean, I don't care who it is. We've got to see this offensive line show some sort of control, no matter who the opponent is. You didn't see it last year. There were teams you should have been able to run the ball on that you didn't necessarily see Florida run the ball on. And we want to see this offensive line. I want to see Gene Delant's pass block. I want to see these inside interior offensive linemen get a big push and make it easier for these running backs to hit some big plays. That's probably it for me looking at the run game. And you guys know, if you listen to Gators Breakdown, I'm a big explosive run guy. I want to see some explosive runs from the get-go. You're playing FAU. It shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be a problem. Go out there and show me you can hit some big plays in the run game. Defense, I'll say we know this one. Just line up. It didn't matter who was Florida was, once again, kind of going to the offensive line. It didn't matter who they were playing. For the defense, it didn't matter who they were playing last year. You couldn't get lined up. And look, you could be playing a peewee team. It didn't matter. Go line up. Go see what you're doing. Know what you're doing out there on the field. Be in position by the time the ball is snapped. I don't want to see guys with their hands up in the air. I don't want to see guys running around when the ball snapped. I want to see all 11 guys on the same page on this defense. That's the two biggest things for me. And like I said, you said good things and bad things. Like I said, those are related to me. So that's initially, so I can save some for the podcast next week too. Those are the two things that I have to see next week for this Gator team in playing FAU. Like I said, it didn't matter who they were playing. They could be playing a flag football team for all I care. But those are the things I have to see. I won't necessarily say feel good about the season because that doesn't necessarily translate since you're playing FAU. But those are things that I have to see just because of who you are playing. But it doesn't necessarily tell me any type of success Florida will have toward the rest of the year.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I really do think they're gonna be pretty good this year because they actually got a summer and a spring, and I know we don't get a lot of the high-profile recruits, but they are good developers, and Nick Savage is great with transforming their bodies. So I do think we're going to have a real good year this year. I appreciate it, Dave.
Thanks, man. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
All right, let's see here. Got some more in here. I got a few more. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, sorry I couldn't get in on you on Monday, and I'm calling in real quick before we go into surgery right now. I got an emergency case I got to do. Right. Hey, I just want to hop in right quick. Yesterday, I was listening to Peter Burns' Sorry Behind on Paul Feinbaum, but he actually was kind of in our favor somewhat when we played Alabama. And he was like, guys, I don't understand. Alabama is somewhat vulnerable. Of course, the Alabama fans were calling in and, we going to beat the Gators and blah, blah. I'm sitting up there like, you idiots. I just got to let Alabama fans be Alabama fans. But I heard what you said when you was talking about you want to see people lining up. Ain't nobody need to be running around like they don't know what the hell they doing, and chickens with their neck cut off. So I'm hoping that we get all that, what you said, down pat these first two games, and then come the third week of the season, we just shocked the world. We shocked the world. I ain't saying that we're going to be back, but at least shock the world that we could actually do what we came to do. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, man. And looking at that game, I was talking about this on another podcast yesterday, and everybody's kind of looking forward to that game because, hey, look, while Florida kicks off versus FAU, you have Georgia playing Clemson, but that's a neutral site game in Charlotte. You have Alabama playing Miami, but that's a neutral site game in Atlanta. You don't get your first big taste of SEC football until Alabama rolls into Gainesville. There's some other SEC games, of course, before that, but like week 2, but you don't get your traditional SEC power matchup until week 3 and Florida and Alabama play. And I've said this before, and I'll say it the week of the game too. Last year, 2020, it showed us how close those teams can be. Florida had peaks and valleys, ups and downs in 2020, but when Florida was at their, when Florida could play one of their best games, they could play with Alabama. What 2021 will show us is maybe just how far or how close the gap is. Program-wise, if you play Alabama close again, you can sit here and say, all right, well, we know we're behind. We know that. That's Alabama's in front of everybody. Everybody's behind Alabama, but maybe we're not as far behind. We can sit here and talk recruiting rankings and all that kind of stuff, but still, maybe we're not that far behind. But since you played them close last year, you go into 2021, Florida has a lot of change at quarterback. Alabama goes through change, and it's just status quo for them. It doesn't matter if they're going through change. They're still a top 1, 2, 3 team in the country. Florida goes through some change, and the perception is, all right, well, Florida's going to fall back a little bit. You have a chance to change that perception when you play Alabama week 3. And if it's another close game like it was last year, or you just happen to upset Alabama, well, it's like, okay, look, we're still not on Alabama's level, but we're showing program-wise, we can play with these guys. We played them close last year in a loss. We played them close, and we beat them this year. We're still behind. Clearly, we're behind overall. Alabama doesn't at a consistent level, but maybe the gap isn't as far as what everybody perceives it to be. So that's something I think is on the line just a little bit when Florida plays Alabama in week 3. You're looking at how close the programs can be in Dan Mullen's fourth season.
Exactly. I would totally agree with that. And one other thing, David, I wanted to get your take on it. Yesterday, I kind of chimed in on a Twitter post where they were talking about Nolan and his father wants to come down for the Alabama-Florida game after he done made his pick of his top 3. And I'm like, sure, he's more welcome to come, pay for a ticket just like the rest of us. And you're more welcome to come and see it and, be a part of it and this, that, and the other. But I just feel like, and this is just me, I played ball too. I played for Texas A&M, and I played at Alcorn State University with Donald Driver and Steve McNair. When we were going to college, we had to audition for the coaches. We had to show them that we had interest in the school to get those scholarships. It has totally reversed now that the coaches got to sell their school to people, to players to come, where before it used to be we had to sell ourselves to get those scholarships because we were competing with other people to get those slots. And I just think right now these kids are just way too entitled. Don't get me wrong. Some are worth the scholarships that we spend on them. But all the prima donnas and stuff, man, oh my God, it's getting out of hand. Choose, and just like when you had Ben on the program, on the podcast and on the YouTube page the other day, Ben hit it right on the money when he said one beat, one team, one heartbeat, one team. What legacy are y'all guys trying to leave? The legacy that y'all following, y'all got to hold up. So my thing is with these kids, man, Nolan is a good player. Yeah, we could use him. But there are about 16 more of them in the waiting. So, they need to really get their mind correct. What you think?
Recruiting's changed. It definitely is a wine and dine situation now. Especially a lot of these high profile athletes like Nolan, and he's gonna get wine and dine. If he get official visits for that Alabama, he won't be paying for his own ticket or anything like that. So, and you don't want word like that. You can't really play that game because it's a chain reaction. If a lot of other top players in future classes kind of see how you do that, then it's a chain reaction, and it doesn't speak all too well, of course, and what recruits are looking for. So if any high profile player, doesn't matter. Look, that in that top three for him, I very seriously doubt that's his final top three. That's just games being played by pops and the whole recruiting game being played right now. That's just where that one stands. And I'm not saying Florida ends up getting him in the end. I think Florida's still in it more than some want to believe. I don't think Florida would be the pick right now, but I still think there's a shot, there's a chance out there, very slim, but still out there. If he was to probably put out a top five, I think Florida would be in it or something. If we put out a top three right now, Florida might be in it. That's how fluid and that's how the recruiting game is working right now in that situation. But, it's a touchy, hot subject as far as recruiting goes. I'm about ready, of course. A lot of people, if they've listened to Gators Breakdown for years to come, recruiting is more of an off-season topic for me. Once we get into this week, next week, games start rolling in, I don't really talk about it all too much until signing day, unless somebody commits. That's just I care more. Don't get me wrong; it's all in relation, and eventually, you look at it as in it does for the most part, unless somebody commits. So that's just kind of where I stand with it, kind of where I put my feet in the sand. For draw a line in the sand, put my feet in the dirt. Once the season starts, recruiting goes by the wayside. I know it's popular. I know it's a hot topic, but the way I do things, I'd rather concentrate on these 12 games. These 12 games, we wait for these 12 games all year, and we look for these 12 games to have fun. Go tailgate, go to games. Recruiting for me, it just kind of falls by the wayside once the games get kicked off. I care more about the actual pigskin this time of year than guys who could potentially be Gators unless they commit. There's my soapbox moment, I guess. All right, let's see. We get a couple more in here before I go. We're going about an hour already, so a couple more as we get in here. Everybody, remember being recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, don't want to be a part of it, don't hop in. But I'm going to put this out here for everybody else as well later on, right after this. So. Let's see. North Florida's finest Big Trust Gator. You're in here now. So what's up?
Good morning, Dave. I just had a question about defensive personnel. I saw some of the reports from the scrimmage and everything that Mordecai was working with Elam at safety. And you were talking earlier about the star position being such a hybrid linebacker, defensive back position. And I was wondering what the reports were on Darwin Black out of camp, and if you think he'll contribute early, or if that may be because I know they want Johnson to play star. So I was just wondering about that other safety position, and also if they're going to rotate star, or if Black's going to work more as a safety, or you think he's going to work more and rotate with Johnson at star, or also, are they rotating? I know Elam is set, or I'm sorry, Elam, but Dean is set at the one safety, but are they rotating Collier and these other guys that could be playing safety also? And who are the two starting defensive tackles going to be? Is it going to be the transfer from Penn State and Dexter, or is it going to be just the two transfers? I appreciate it.
Yeah. So like I said, I am recording this since I have talked about it a couple times already with DeJuan Black in the safety position. So I'll post this again. You'll have to, you can go back and listen to the beginning of it just so I can get some other people in here. But I went in depth there as far as safety rotation, what they're expecting from DeJuan Black and that star position as well. So that's been hit a little bit. You did bring up Corey Collier. So I will go into him. I expect him not to get much playing time this year, and not necessarily because of him. I think I brought up the names earlier. You have Trey Dean, you have Mordecai McDaniel, Rashad Torrance, DeJuan Black in that rotation at safety now. Corey Collier, I think, probably prime redshirt candidate right now. Needs to put on a little bit of weight. He'll get plenty of experience. You look at these first couple games, and I think, you still got that redshirt rule right now where you guys can play a whole lot more football now. And still save their red shirt. So I expect him to get some playing times in these, FAU, USF, Samford type of games, Vanderbilt as well. But there's 4 games, but save that red shirt there. But Corey Collier, I don't think I know high profile recruit, but I think there's a few guys in front of him. Donovan McMillan, not as highly recruited as Corey Collier at safety, but he's the freshman I'm actually hearing more about as far as maybe getting into that safety rotation. Somebody who impressed in the spring, somebody who keeps impressing in the fall. So I think that's where you can look at kind of some names there at safety. But like I said, go back. I'll try and post this recording. But toward the beginning of it, there's a whole lot of DeJuan Black talk and how he fits into this as well.
I got in late. Sorry about that.
All good, man. All good. That's one reason I wanted to start recording this, because I know a lot of people, it's hard to hop in at a certain time there. So I'm going to try and do this on a set schedule. When the season starts, I'll try and make a set schedule for this. It's kind of tough, but just so everybody kind of knows when to expect it, so they can hop in and hit it live. But I'm going to start posting recordings of this as well.
What up, Dave?
Hey, what up? How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm chilling, man. It's unique, man. I was thinking about this Florida team is probably the closest to like what most people say Dan Mullen's type of system. Would you take this team versus Bama or 2017 Mississippi State team that played the 9-0 Bama that went to the wire?
Oh, I'll take this team. Talent level is much higher. And that to me, the potential is higher. Now that 2017 team was good for Dan Mullen. Nick Fitzgerald was just very limited as a quarterback. Dan Mullen should get a whole lot of credit for what he did with him. And we saw it. The very next year, Dan Mullen's at Florida. Nick Fitzgerald's there with Joe Moorhead, and Mississippi State's nowhere near what they were with Dan Mullen the year before that. Nick Fitzgerald was a more experienced quarterback. And you could tell he missed Dan Mullen. That team missed Dan Mullen as their head coach, offensive coordinator, the man calling plays. You could tell they missed that. So, but still, overall talent level. And then, look, I know that team played Alabama, very, very tough. But here's the thing: this Alabama team this year, I think Alabama last year, this year, I still think I know maybe blasphemy, but better than they were back then. I think they were still kind of going through that transition in offense a little bit. Trying to rely more on the quarterback, rely more on the passing game. They're fully into that mode right now. Now there's some changes, and the offensive coordinator changes, and a lot of talent loss as well. But Alabama and the way they've recruited, and what's up there, coming off their highest recruiting class ever, which is unimaginable, crazy. But it's just where it is. I take this Florida team, though. There's still much more talent. Emory Jones much more talented than Nick Fitzgerald. The wide receiver core deeper, more highly recruited. I mean, the talent level is much higher what he's working with now than what it ever was at Mississippi State, even with his best teams there. And I'm not saying, this team can be 2014 Mississippi State or anything like that, because you had a special quarterback. You had a special quarterback in Dak Prescott. And we still got to see that. And I'm not saying Emory can't be that. I'm not saying he will be that. I'm not saying he won't be that. But I will have to see that before I'm going to sit here and say, all right, this can be 2014 Mississippi State with Dak Prescott. That's a big ask for a team right now. And we'll see if it comes to that. But I picked this team right now over that 2017 Mississippi State team.
Okay, that's where I'm trying to see where we sit, because I still would think that a 9-team in in that far in the season, Bama would still be better than this fresh Bama that you get in the third game.
No,
of the
I
season.
can see your point there. Yeah, points of the season do come into play, and you're right about that. Now, yeah, that game was later in the season, and more well gelled Alabama team, and that's one reason a lot of people are giving Florida a shot this year. They don't think Florida's as good as Alabama, but hey, it's an early season game. It's a lot of young players on Bama's team. This is their first big true road game in the swamp. No, I can see your point there. Absolutely. I think you look at it that way, then you can kind of separate the two a bit more to where you might lean more towards a later season team more so than this year in an early season team.
All right, so we're looking at a one possession game.
I hope so, man. I hope. I mean, Bama scares me. It's like last year. I thought it would be as long as Florida's offense showed up. I was like, okay, it's going to be a game. It's going to be a great game there. But I am really high on Alabama's defense. And starting this year, they'll start the season much stronger on defense than they did last year. I mean, I said it before, and I'll say it again. I thought Alabama's defense at the end of the year last year was probably the best defense in the country. I know but they worked up to that. They were not that at the beginning of the season. They were a team that got better as the season went on the defensive side of the ball, and they're pretty much just picking up from there this season. They've got to replace some defensive backs, of course, but I think Alabama, their front seven is nasty, and I mean it's going to be, and we all worry about this offensive line and the running game and stuff. That's going to be a test. That Alabama front seven is going to be a big test, and I don't want people to kind of look at Alabama last year and the way they started the year on defense and think that's going to kind of correlate to this year. I think Alabama's defense is going to be pretty good from the get go.
All right. Yeah, I've been trying to match those two teams. I'm like, 2017 might be the closest one. I'm going just position by position. I'm like, yeah, we got them there. Then it comes down to offensive line. I think Mississippi State probably had a better offensive line.
Recruiting rankings say no.
No.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your recruiting rankings say no, but I'm saying I might agree with you there too. You were way, way, way far in development there at Mississippi State and John Hevesy, and like I said, I think that style of offense suits what he wants to do as an offensive line coach and what he develops for and what he recruits for. And like I said, I think that helps Florida this year as well because I think you see more of that style of offense. But they were just kind of more in tune with that style of offense, more so than like Florida now coming off of 2 years where you were dropping back and pass blocking 40 times a game.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, Unique, man. Thanks for hopping in.
Yep.
All right, guys. That will do it here. I mean, it was pretty cool here. Like I said, recording this. Hopefully, it all recorded well. I'll put it up there for everybody to go back and listen to if they didn't get to catch all of it. So I'll try and post it in the next few minutes or so. But everybody, hey, go join Gators Breakdown Plus. Big season coming up. A lot of giveaways coming up as well there for Gators Breakdown Plus to kick the season off. A lot of extra content would be out there. More things like this right here. I do some private chats on there. I'll post those, and it'll be only available for Gators Breakdown Plus members. So even more content there. Some more written content as the season gets along as well. Probably more opponent preview stuff when it's all said and done. You sign up, put your email in, you'll get a newsletter pretty much emailed to your inbox, and I'll be more content driven that way. Send stuff to your inbox, more and more chats to your podcast feed as well on the Gators Breakdown Plus podcast feed. So everybody, thank you so much for all the support. 5 years running. This is our 5th season going in. Can't wait for it to start next week. Lots to look forward to here on Gators Breakdown and Gators Breakdown Plus. All right, that will do it here for this chat. I'll do it again. We'll see sometime next week. I don't know when yet. Like I said, let me figure this schedule and stuff out. We'll get it going. But everybody, thanks for hopping in for this chat. 1 week away